Hello, and welcome back to our Yakuza 4 Remastered playthrough. In our last episode, we spent most of it either in search of or carrying around Yasuko Seijima's 100 million yen. We were contacted by Katsuragi, who was the bloke who threw himself in front of the bullets in the ramen shop in an effort to save the head of the Ueno Seiwa Clan. And it turns out that he was actually the one who finished off all 18, and that Yasuko's brother Tiger did not actually kill any of them. So, I mean, you know. But Katsuragi's decided that he needs to clean house a little bit, so he's sent some Ueno Seiwa gang members after our friend here Xiao, and everyone else in Little Asia, and we have just managed to make it back to them. So let's see if we can save them, shall we? Xiao says, what? You mean someone else killed those 18 men? Tanimura says, right. The Ueno Seiwa officers were taken out by one of their own, Katsuragi. Xiao says, then Yasuko Seijima's brother is innocent? Tanimura says, well, he did carry out the attack, so he's far from innocent. But there's a big difference in sentencing for murder and attempted murder. Xiao says, Itsai says, was this Katsuragi also responsible for killing your father? Tanimura says, I couldn't get an answer out of him. Itsai says, I see. A little bit later, Hisai says, either way, Tanimura-kun, that stunt you pulled had me worried half to death. I got a call from Sugiuchi-kun in Homicide telling me you were trying to contact the Ueno Seiwa. So I took it upon myself to search for you before you wound up in danger, which ended up happening anyway. Tanimura says, so that's why you're here. Hisai says, Tanimura-kun, you must have some inclination as to how dangerous the Ueno Seiwa clan is right now. Are you even aware of the gravity of this situation? Tanimura says, more or less. Hisai sighs. Xiao says, at least this Katsuragi seems to know something about your father's killer. Sounds like progress to me. Tanimura says, yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. Xiao says, then why the long face? You finally have a promising lead. Tanimura says, something the Katsuragi said has been bugging me. Xiao asks, and what was that? Tanimura says, the police covered up the truth about the massacre in 1985. They knew the real killer was Katsuragi, but they pinned it all on Seijima. Xiao says, huh? Hisai says, what? Tanimura says, none of this rings a bell, Chief? Hisai says, no, I'm not in Homicide, and back then I was as low on the totem pole as it gets. Tanimura says, fair enough. Xiao asks, so were the police trying to protect Katsuragi? If so, why? Tanimura says, who knows, but they obviously couldn't let a scandal like that go public. Xiao says, Hisai says, I just thought of something. Tanimura says, Hisai says, maybe we could dig something up at headquarters. Tanimura asks, oh yeah? How? Hisai says, Archive Room 13 on basement level 3, the so-called Forbidden Room. Xiao asks, the Forbidden Room? Hisai says, that's right, also known as the Scandals Graveyard. All records of police misconduct over the years supposedly end up there. Or so the rumour goes. Tanimura says, interesting. Then we just might find something useful. Hisai says, yes, or, well, it will simply be a rumour. Tanimura says, still, it's worth a shot. In fact, I'm all over it. Hisai says, now hold your horses, Tanimura-kun. Think about it. Archive 13 is smack dab in the middle of headquarters. A rookie like you can't just go strolling in there without permission. Tanimura says, I never planned on asking. I mean, we're dealing with someone who can cover up mass murder. I doubt they'd be keen on giving me access to the evidence. Zhao says, you serious about this, Ma-chan? Hisai says, Tanimura-kun, No, nothing. Tanimura says, so, we all ready to go? Hisai says, huh? Wait, we as in you and me? Tanimura says, of course, us community safety boys gotta stick together, right? Besides, I've only been to HQ maybe once or twice. I probably couldn't find this archive even if I tried. But you know right where it is, don't you, Chief? Hisai says, what? I know, well, I mean, yes, but be that as it may, this bloke seems to sweat rather a lot, this Hisai bloke. Anyway, Tanimura says, great, then I'll be counting on you. Do you think he's got a little something hidden away? We need to head to police HQ, or do I back out in Kamurocho proper? Hisai says, okay, let's go. We can get there by taxi. Tanimura thinks to himself, anything I gotta take care of before we go to HQ? Yes, actually. Replenish our stocks a little bit. Tanimura says, sorry, but I kind of forgot something. You mind waiting a little bit? Hisai says, oh, alright, just hurry up. I'll be standing right here. Sorry, sponsored sushi, right here. Perfect. Actually, sorry. Suspicious male reported stalking a woman in Nakamichi Alley. Okay. Male, female. Persistent guy says, come on, you know you want to hang out with me. Unwilling woman says, I told you I'm not interested. Somebody get this guy away from me. Tanimura says, hey, I'm with the police. You'd better knock it off before I haul you in. Persistent guy says, huh? Mind your own goddamn business. I'll pick up chicks however I like. You seem to be sort of swimming in your clothes there, sir, one must say. Even your pants are sort of just hanging there very loose on your frame. Formerly unwilling woman says, you really saved me. Please take this as a token of my gratitude. We got 10,000 yen. Yay, go us. Formerly unwilling woman says, detective, do you think I could get your phone number? Tanimura says, oh, I'm really not allowed to do that. Well, we've got a fan. Oh, no. Wrong direction. Manager says, hello sir, what can I do for you today? We'll sell some stuff to you, sir. I think. Sell one of them and a gold plate, so we'll have plenty of monies. Well, more monies than we had. Do you actually have anything worth buying? Yet. Lucky bracelet. Tiger skin belt. Thank you. Sponsored sushi is right here, or should be. The employee says welcome. Collect the rubber hose. Okay. Anyway. Grab our sponsored sushi. And head out. Sorry, voice may be going a little bit on me. Anyway. Chief Hisai. What do you say we go? Yes, we can get there by taxi. Let's go see what's going on, shall we? Tanimura says, sure, I'm all set. Hisai says, okay, but we pay our own cab fare. Headquarters might start asking questions if we file an expense report. Tanimura has no words to say in response to that. Taxi driver says the minimum fare is 710 yen. Where would you like to go? Tanimura says headquarters. We're with the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. Taxi driver says very well. Says very well, sir. Very Resident Evil. Tanimura says nope while he's examining a file. Oh, wow! Look at that setup. Look at the old CRT monitors and those Windows 95 towers. Have you even got a 5 1/4 inch floppy drive? You might. Because you certainly don't have a 3 1/2 inch. Unless it's behind that panel beside the power button. Sorry. Yes. Nostalgia, sort of. Oh, that was fortunate. Tanimura says, hey, I think I found it. I had no idea it was here. Hisai asks, you did? The assault on Yoshiharu Ueno. 1. Case overview. The attempt on Yoshiharu Ueno's life was carried out on April 21st, 1985. Shortly after 12 noon that day, a lone gunman armed with 6 revolvers burst into a ramen shop located in Tokyo's Suginami ward. Yoshiharu Ueno, chairman of the Ueno Seiwa Clan, one of the 20 men shot inside and one of the 2 who survived. The gunman was one Taiga Saejima, a 20-year-old member of the Tojo clan. On the day of the incident, Ueno had just been released after serving a 2-year prison term. With him were several top members of his clan. Tanimura says, this report is missing something. Just like Katsuragi said, according to him, he should be the one listed as the killer, but all that's here is the part Saejima played. 2. The investigation. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department formed a special investigation team led by detectives Tanimura and Junji Sugiyuchi. Tanimura thinks to himself, Dad and Sugiyuchi, they worked the case together? Why haven't I heard this before? What the hell's going on? Tanimura says, huh. Hisai asks, what did you find out? Tanimura says, more than I expected. Hisai has no words. Tanimura says, let's go. Hisai says, what, already? Tanimura says, yeah, I have a good lead. No point wasting any more time here. And he walks out the door. We're back in Kamurocho, and Tanimura says, Chief, I have a few things I need to check out. Why don't I see you later? Isai says, that's fine. I'll be back at the station if you need me. Just don't do anything crazy, you hear? Your father wouldn't want you going out guns blazing over this. Tanimura says, I wouldn't go that far. And Isai walks off. Tanimura thinks to himself, I think I'll head back to homeland for now. I need some time to digest all this. Actually, we will go, and just because it's been there for a while and I have sort of been blazing through the story, I'll try and put a little bit of time into the side content. Tanimura. Oh. Sir, whoever told you that haircut looked good on you was a famous lawyer. The panicking man asks, where the hell is he? Can't wait any longer, yo. Angry man asks, what's holding him up? He won't even answer his friggin' phone. Panicking man says, at this rate it'd be quicker to just find some random guy on the street and have him go with us. Angry man says, I'm with you, man. He's got to be at least as good looking as us, hopefully even more so. I don't know what you two are on, but don't take any more of it. The panicking man says, let's see, good looking. Hey, how about that guy? Tanimura asks, The angry man says, no way, that dude looks way too good. Did you forget the whole point of this party? The panicking man says, well, you said good looking, so... Tanimura asks, you two talking about me? The angry man says, the thing is... The panicking man says, the truth is, we're on our way to a mixer and one of the guys didn't show, so we're looking for someone else to go in his place. The Yanks use that term mixer a lot. I don't know what it means exactly. Is it... I presume it's like a BNS ball. Only with slightly less alcohol and doesn't last for 6 days and has slightly less barn dancing. Anyway, we'll chalk that up as another one of those things that I'll say I'm interested in finding out what it actually means and just never get around to actually looking it up. Anyway, Tanimura says, a mixer. You mean one of those grown-up, one of those group date parties? Is that what it is? What? Just have a B&S ball. You'll have your wallflowers and then your stag line, and never the two shall meet. The panicking man says, yeah, my friend here is the one who arranged everything. It was supposed to be 3 guys and 3 girls, but now we're short 1 guy. The angry man says, yeah, so that's what's up. You, wouldn't mind joining us, would you? Tanimura asks, me? Angry man says, yeah, all you gotta do is cup chow down and knock back some brews with us for a couple of hours. Everything's totally on us. Heck, we'll even slip you in some extra cash. The panicking man whispers, Yusuke, are you sure? I thought you said he was too good looking. The angry man whispers back, dude, who cares? We're out of time here. What other choice do we have? The angry man then continues in his normal voice, so how about it, man? Down to mix it up with us and a couple of fine young ladies? Fine. Let's see what this is all about, shall we? Tanimura says, I guess there are worse ways to kill time. Alright, fine, I'll tag along. Panicking man says, for real? Wow, thanks, man. The angry man says, well, we're running out of time, so let me explain real quick. I'm Yusuke, and I arranged this get-together. This here's Naoya, and the guy who flaked out on us like a total bitch is Ryota. Oh, mind if we ask your name? Tanimura says, sure. Masayoshi Tanimura. Masayoshi Tanimura-san. Alright then. The only thing is, we already told the girls our names, and it'd be kind of awkward to try and change one of them now. Tanimura says, yeah, huh? Yusuke says, so would you be cool with us calling you Ryota at the party? Tanimura says, it might get a little confusing, but I guess I can handle it. Naoya says, Yusuke, aren't you going to tell him? Yusuke asks, about what? Naoya, about not hooking up with Akino-chan, of course. Yusuke says, whoa, hey dude, that's not even what I... Look, forget about Akino-chan. We're just here to have fun, alright? Calm down. Your wide, panicking eyes are just out there, dude. Naoya says, bullshit we are? What are you going to do if this guy and Akino-chan hit it off? It could happen, you know. Yusuke says, yeah, you're right. Man, just picturing it in my head makes me feel depressed. Tanimura asks, is there a particular girl you're after? Naoya says, yeah, that's actually the whole point of this little mixer today. Tanimura says, oh, okay, I get it now. Naoya says, do you think you could help Yusuke get close to Akino-chan? This son of a bitch is super desperate, so I'm sure he'll return the favor somehow if everything works out. Come on, Yusuke. Don't make me do all the talking. Yusuke begs, please, help a brother out. Tanimura says, how can I say no to that? Alright, so tell me about this girl, Akino. Naoya says, she's the organizer on the girls' side. She's really outspoken, but she has her quirks too. Yusuke says she hates strong-smelling food, but she really likes garlic gyoza. And she likes sweet cocktails, but gets tipsy pretty quick. Naoya says, but if you try to be nice and get her a soft drink, she'll pretty much chew your head off. Tanimura says, okay, what about the other two? Yusuke says, well, their names are Haruka-chan and Konatsu-chan, but This is the first time we're meeting them, so who knows? Naoya says, if you're into either one of them, feel free to have at it. Tanimura says, what? You're not interested? Naoya says, me? No, I already have a girl I like. I'll be happy as long as things go well for my boy Yusuke. Yusuke says, hey, thanks, man. Naoya says, okay, it's almost time. We need to act like we're all buddy-buddy now. One team, one dream, feel me? We'll be counting on you, Ryota. Tanimura says, sure. Hey, is that one of them? Akino says, hey guys. Yusuke says, oh, Akino. It's been a while. Akino says, it sure has. Well, it looks like you're all here. Thanks for setting things up on the guy's side. Yusuke says, sure thing. What are your other friends? Are your other friends on the way? Akino says, Oh, Haruka and Konatsu are already waiting at the restaurant. I just took the liberty to pick you guys up. Naoya says, you're always so on top of things, Akino-chan. Akino laughs. You know me. Well, shall we? Apparently we shall. And we head to the restaurant. Everyone says cheers. Akino says, okay, so let's all introduce ourselves. Who wants to go first? Yusuke says, well, seeing as I'm the one who organised this whole thing, I might as well start things off. My name's Yusuke, and I work in sales at a printing company. Akino and I were in the same club together at college. Every now and then we'll get together for some drinks, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, Naoya says, okay. Yusuke, thank you for that lovely introduction. My turn now. I am Naoya, and I've known Yusuke since we were little. I just can't seem to get rid of the guy. At the moment, I'm sort of what you would call underemployed, but don't worry, I promise I'm not some kind of freeloading slacker. Tanimura has not the words to respond to that. Naoya then turns to Tanimura and says, alright, you're up, brother. Tanimura says, right, I am... we're Ryota. Tanimura says, I'm Ryota. I went to high school with these characters. Yusuke says, yeah, what he said. We sort of bumped into each other the other day and he told me he was single. Guess my boy is ready to hang in, ready to bang. Make a bang, that is. Akino says, whoa, I never would have guessed you were single. Waste of hotness, if you ask me. Well, aren't you honest, dear? Yusuke says, sure, yeah, totally. Guy's as hot as a brick oven. Makes me wonder why he hasn't had a girlfriend in years. Know what I mean, Naoya? Naoya says, I do. Maybe it's because he's got secrets to hide. Deep down issues. Literal skeletons in the closet. Come on, Ryota. Don't look at me like that. Relax. I'm just yanking your chain, man. It's how close friends who clearly go way back joke around. Yusuke whispers, keep it up, Tanimura-san. You're doing great. Naoya says, alright, that wraps up the boys. Girls, you're up. Yusuke says, hey, who put you in charge? Akino says, now, no bricking, boys. I'll start things off. I arranged this little mix on the girls' side, and my name is Akino. I work at a restaurant inside the Millennium Tower. Nice to meet you guys. Tanimura says, nice to meet you, Akino. Haruka says, I'm Haruko. I usually work late nights as a nurse, so I'm looking forward to having some fun today. Naoya says, wow, nurse. That sounds like a pretty tough job. Akino says, your turn, Konatsu. Konatsu says, oh, right, okay, so I'm Kanatsu. Akino-chan invited me out tonight. Glad to be here. I assume she blushes and goes silent. Yusuke asks, what do you do for work, Kanatsu-chan? Kanatsu says, I work part-time at a bookstore. Yeah. Naoya says, oh snap, you're a part-timer? That's pretty much what I am. Yusuke says, yeah, a part-time worker and a full-time flake. Sorry about this guy, Kanatsu-chan. He kinda gets carried away sometimes. Kanatsu says, oh, that's no problem. Akino says, well, alright. Now that we've got that taken care of, let's get some food. Who's hungry? Anything you'd recommend, Ryota-kun? Now, if we go with gyoza, we're going to take her and, frankly, no, Yusuke can have her. Tanimura says, you know, I'm so indecisive at times like these. Yusuke, why don't you pick something for us? Yusuke says, right. How about something filling and mouth-watering? Oh, I know. You should get some pan-fried gyoza. Akino says, oh, great choice, Yusuke. Aside from the garlicky smell, I could eat those all day. Yusuke says, thanks for the assist, Tanimura-san. How did we get drunk off gyoza? Anyway, Naoya says, so the other day Yusuke was at work and this girl totally asks him out. Yusuke says, shut up, no. We don't have to talk about that here. Akino asks, why not? I want to hear more. Haruko says, yeah, you can't just end a story before it gets to the juicy stuff. Naoya says, apparently this girl was real old school about it. She left a love letter in his desk. Haruko says, oh, that's pretty old-fashioned. Nobody does that kind of thing anymore. Except maybe Kanatsu. Kanatsu says, hey, Haruko-chan. Haruko says, come on, there's nothing wrong with that. Last time I checked, a girl's allowed to confess her love shyly, right? Anyway, what did you do after you got the letter, Yusuke-kun? Naoya says, well, here's the part where Yusuke highlights just how much of a gentleman he really is. He decided to handwrite her a letter back. And boy, did he keep messing up. He even made me go buy more paper for him. And he works at a printing company, people. There should be loads of it there. Haruko says, amazing. So what did he write back? Let me guess. It was a rejection letter, right? Naoya says, okay, so this is where it gets good. I thought he'd just put something simple like, nope, not interested. But he went and said, I'm sorry, but I'm currently into someone else. Akino says, wow, he went through all that trouble. Yusuke says, enough about this. Let's change the subject. New topic, please. Kanatsu says, you know. Yusuke says, huh? Kanatsu says, I think that was a wonderful thing to do, Yusuke-san. Clearing things up for her like that. I'm sure she understands your feelings. You're quite sincere. Yusuke says, oh, thanks. I honestly didn't think much of it at the time, but I appreciate the compliment all the same. And he laughs nervously. Natsu says, I meant it. Haruka says, oh, Kanatsu, are you into Yusuke-kun? Kanatsu says, no. Well, I mean, I'm not saying I don't like him. Damn it, Haruko. Akino says, come on, Haruko. Don't put her on the spot like that. Go easy on the girl. Naoya says, you know what, Kanatsu-chan? You're adorable. Isn't she, Ryota? she is very adorable, yes. Tanimura says, yeah, a lot of girls nowadays are so masculine. Not that that's a problem, but I don't know. Natsu-chan just seems to be the type of girl that makes me want to protect her. Konatsu says, I am? Sorry, I don't want to make you do that. Naoya says, you don't have to apologize. Haruko says, yeah, just say thanks, that cute little voice of yours, since you're so feminine and all, unlike me apparently. Akino says, Haruko, what's that supposed to mean? Did Ryoja-kun's comment rub you the wrong way? Haruko says, heck no, I'm not that sensitive, you know. Naoya says, Haruka-chan, I actually find you quite feminine and attractive. Thought you'd like to know. Tanimura says, actually, Yusuke was just saying how cute Akino-chan looks today, too. Yusuke says, wait, what? Akino laughs. Yeah, right, Ryota-kun. I know Yusuke doesn't see me like that. Nice try, though. Yusuke says, to be honest, that's not exactly true. Akino says, Yusuke says, I mean, Ryota's totally right. Lately, I really have noticed how pretty you are, and yeah. Akino says, what? No way! I never would have expected to hear something like that from you, Yusuke. But thanks. Haruko says, this is delicious. Oh, by the way, I guess I should have asked this earlier, but you guys are still single, right? Yusuke says, yeah, I only invited single guys to this get-together. No, yes, Larson says, and I bet it wasn't easy considering most of his friends are starting to settle down. Yusuke says, hey, you're single too, you know. Naoya says, true enough, but there's already a girl I have my eyes on. Not that I stand a chance. Yusuke asks, what? Haruko says, oh, stop being so negative. Today is your chance to forget about all that. Akino says, that's right, and look, our glasses are almost empty. Let's order another round. I think some of you have had more than enough. Yusuke asks, shouldn't you be taking it easy on the drinks, Akino? Akino asks, what's your problem, Yusuke? Are you trying to say I drink too much? Yusuke says, no, that's not what I meant. Yusuke, we need to, yeah. We need to get you an elephant tranquilizer, I think. I would throw him a lifeline, but I'm more interested in seeing how he gets out of this. Tanimura thinks to himself, Yusuke has a hard time standing up to Akino. This is going to be amusing. I think I'll just hang back and watch what happens. We're outside. And Haruko says, whew, haven't drunk this much in forever. Natsu says, yeah, that was fun. Akino says, think I might have overdone it just a bit. Yusuke says, hey Akino, are you alright? Haruko says, dang, she looks pretty sloshed. What should we do? Yeah, your turn to place a Galahad, Yusuke. Tanimura says, Yusuke, you know where she lives, right? How about you make sure she gets home? Yusuke says, dude. Take yourself to the hospital as soon as you get her home and get that elephant tranquilizer in you. Haruko says, really? That'd be super. I'll see Kanatsu home. Thanks, Yusuke-kun. Well, everybody, today was fun. Thanks for coming out. Yusuke says, come on, Akino, let's go. Akino says, Yusuke, where are we going? Yusuke says, I'm taking your drunk self home, of course. Akino says, what? But the night's still young. Let's go somewhere fun. Yusuke says, well, I guess let's just take you both to the hospital, let her chuck it up, and you get your elephant tranquilizer. You take yourselves home in the morning, and that's the end of it, really. Naoya says, you guys go. Ryota and I are going to call it a day here. Tanimura says, yeah, you two have fun. Yusuke says, right, thanks guys, I owe you one. You're going to have a stroke, Yusuke, I think, in the very near future. Naoya says, well, I'd say that went over pretty damn good. Tanimura says that it did. Naoya says, honestly, I didn't think it'd go this well. It was really thanks to you, Tanimura-san. Tanimura says, I guess we'll see. This is just the beginning for those two. Naoya says, you've got that right. It's all up to our boy Yusuke now. It's not much, but this is to thank you for everything you did. Oh, we got 50,000 monies. Go us. Tanimura asks, are you sure? I don't know if I feel right accepting money for this. Naoya says, don't take it like that. Besides, I'll make sure I get it all back from Yusuke later. I know he appreciates your help. Tanimura says, you really got his back, don't you? Naoya says, well, like I said, it's like a bad habit I just can't break. So what's a friend supposed to do? Alrighty, I'm heading home. Tanimura says, cool, be safe out there. Naoya says, thanks again, man. Get yourself to a hairdresser, mate. Get them to fix that mess on your head. We're getting 3,000 EXP. Okay. Alright, one, what is sewer cheese, and why are you eating it in the first place when you know exactly what it is? Public intoxication and violence reported in front of the Millennium Tower. Well, I doubt it's our friend the policeman. Tanimura says to himself, looks like all the ruckus tired him out. Hey sir, wake up. You're liable to catch a cold sleeping out here. The drunk says, leave me alone. Tanimura says, people are going to trip over you. Come on, get up. The drunk says, just get away from me. Can't you see I'm trying to sleep here? Okay. He wants it. Now go to sleep, my friend. Tanimura asks, get it out of your system? The drunk says, I'm sorry, I really had a few too many. Maybe if I let you have this, you won't have to take me in? We got 10,000 monies. Yay! I'm not sure the camera is responsive enough for all of these tight corners. It's like it's like you know, in all the in the original Resident Evil games, where you'd be like cruising around and you'd get sort of stuck between two camera angles, and it'd just sort of jitter back and forward. It sort of feels like that. Mehua says, "Machan, help!" Mehua says, "It's Dad. You gotta help my dad." Tanimura asks, "What's wrong?" Mehua says, "They took him away." Well, he is keeping pigs' heads and dead ducks just hanging in his shop, so... Tanimura asks, "Who did? What happened?" Mehua says, "These scary guys burst into Homeland and harassed us about a woman named Nadine." Or should that be Nadine? Don't know. We'll find out context later, hopefully, and pronounce it correctly and incorrectly at the same time. Tanimura asks, "Do you know who they were?" Mehua says, "No, but I think I know where they're headed. Somewhere off Senryo Avenue." "Please, Machan, you've got to save my dad." Tanimura says, "Don't worry, I'll get him back in one piece. You just head back to the restaurant where it's safe, okay?" Mehua says, "No, I'm going too." Tanimura says, "I had a feeling you'd say that." "Fine, but we've got to hurry. Think you can keep up?" Mehua says, "Of course I can. By the way, Machan, I brought these for you in case you were tired. Hope you like them." We got a Stamina X and a Toughness Z. Tanimura says, "You're the best. Now let's get going." Mehua says, "I'm right behind you." Let me guess. You're going to be Tanimura's Haruka. Now we need to go to Senryo Avenue, don't we? Which is... Look at the map. That's north. And Senryo Avenue is south of north. That makes... Yes. I am going to take combo speed boost. Boosts the speed of combo attacks, enhances all actions. take Phoenix Spirit. Phoenix's spirit automatically fills up the heat gauge if your health gauge is flashing red. Activated when health gauge is flashing red. Okay, we'll save that for the next level up. Sorry, sir. Sorry. Excuse me, Constable. Excuse me, Constable. Have you seen a rather portly Chinese man being escorted by some rather sadistic-looking Yakuza in the near past? The police officer says, we're on special patrol. Gotta move on if you don't have any business here. Thank you, Constable. That was so helpful. Well, I won't ask that constable, as I believe... Oh, there he is. Zhao asks, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't know any Nadine. Yakuza says, we're in no hurry, old man. How about we take a trip to our office and jog your memory there? Zhao says, I have nothing to say to you. Now keep your filthy hands away from me. Tanimura says, come on guys, do I really need to remind you of the legal ramifications of for abduction? Or are you actually that dumb? Yakuza asks, who the hell are you? Tanimura asks, does it matter? All you need to know is I'm taking Zhao-san back. Tanimura says, this might get dangerous, Meihua. Hang tight for a minute. So she runs away. Tanimura says, all right, arseholes, let's see what you've got. They're shady men. You come over here, please. Oh. Yeah. So they all run away. Tanimura says, hey, they hurt you any?
Yeah.
Zhao says, no, I'm fine. Didn't mean to get you involved. Tanimura says, they were looking for a woman named Nadine, right? She your buddy or something? Zhao says, Nadine came here from the Philippines to seek better financial opportunities. But the authorities found out she was working legally and now they're trying to chase her down. Tanimura says, then she sought help from the Asian Gateway, I'm assuming. Zhao says, correct. She was actually at the restaurant at the time those thugs showed up. Luckily, she was in the back room and got the hell out of there as soon as she heard the commotion. Tanimura says, alright, then who were those people just now? Not the authorities, that's for sure. Zhao says, my guess is they're responsible for bringing illegal immigrants into the country. In other words, human traffickers. They must be afraid that if Nadine gets arrested, she'll lead the police right back to them. Tanimura says, makes sense, but I doubt she'll be coming this way anymore. Gonna be a real pain in the ass to find her.
Yeah.
Zhao says, there is one method you can try. Tanimura asks, yeah, I'm all ears. Zhao says, so there's this fortune teller over on Tenkaichi Street. Maybe she could help me track Nadine down. Tanimura says. A fortune teller. Is that seriously the best you can come up with? Or were you just kidding? Zhao says, oh, it's no joke. In fact, this lady is known for being freakishly accurate with her predictions. Kind of spooky, if you ask me. Tanimura says, it sure sounds spooky, but whatever. If you're the one who's recommending it, then I guess I have nothing to lose. Where's this place exactly? Zhao says, the middle of Tenkaichi Street, right next to the host club called Stardust. Tanimura says, okay, here's hoping fortune's on our side, huh? Okay. Yes, good evening, dear. Hello. We, probably should see to Nadine's issues now. Disturbance reported at a restaurant on Tenkaichi Street. All nearby units report. That would be this one. Tanimura asks, you the one causing trouble? Give it a restaurant lady. The rude customer asks, who the hell are you? I'm gonna crush you for butting in where you don't belong. You nicked me, old China. The owner says, oh, Tanimura-san, sorry for causing you trouble. Tanimura says, yeah, you did. Anyway, you never know what those types will do once you warn them. Dealing with them can be dangerous, so you should call up the police next time. The owner says, thank you so much. This is a little thank you for taking care of things for us, Tanimura-san. We got 15,000 monies. Alright, there's Stardust. So, fortune teller might be here. Sorry. Oh. Well, she is gazing a crystal ball. Naomi says, welcome, welcome. What can Naomi's amazing psychic powers do for you today? Tanimura says, I'm looking for a Filipino woman who's gone missing. Her name's Nadine. Naomi says, Nadine, you say? Was she your sweetheart? You must let go of what is gone. Accepting the inevitable is simply a part of life, young man. Tanimura asks, are you going to help me or not? My friend Zhao-san over in Middle Asia said you have the power to see the unseen. Naomi laughs. Yes, but my services do not come cheap, Detective Tanimura. Tanimura asks, you know who I am? Naomi says, what sort of psychic would I be if I didn't at least know that? Naomi sees all, knows all. Tanimura says, right. Okay then, do you know where Nadine is? Naomi gazes at her crystal ball a little bit more. Tanimura asks, what are you doing? Naomi says, silence. The great and powerful Naomi must concentrate. She goes on. Yes, yes. I see a name. Saki-chan. You should go ask Saki-chan. Tanimura asks Saki-chan. Naomi says she will give you the information you seek. Tanimura asks, you're not giving me the runaround, are you? No, he says, if you do not trust my powers, you can take your business elsewhere. Tanimura says, fine. Then just tell me where I can find this Saki-chan. Naomi says, near Pink Street. She'll be wearing a purple scarf. Tanimura says, thanks. If this goes well, you'll have yourself a new customer. Naomi says, come again. Well, Naomi was less than impressed. And that's for her to be entitled to. I don't wish to take it away from her. Hey, Pink Street, purple scarf, girl. I mean, it's a lovely purple skirt, but it's not a scarf. Oh dear. Oh dear. Yep. Let's get this over with, shall we? Tanimura says to himself, so that's Saki-chan, huh? Well, I guess no one explicitly said what kind of woman she'd be. And a purple scarf? Couldn't I have gotten some other clue? An accessory that anyone could wear isn't exactly a distinguishing feature. Tanimura says, hey there, would you happen to be Saki-chan? Saki-chan says, oh, hey there yourself. Don't tell me you were about to use the pickup line, weren't you? Isn't he adorable, folks? Tanimura says, actually, I'm looking for somebody, a woman named Nadine. Saki-chan says, oh, shit, and runs away. Tanimura says, hey, get back here. I'm guessing we're doing another chase minigame. And we're going to have to, quote-unquote, tackle... I do hope everyone realizes that this woman may not necessarily be a woman. So shoulder charging her in the back may not be taken the wrong way. Oh, right in the face. That's not nice. Yeah, she got away. Tanimura says, forget this, I can barely take another step. Hey. Oh! That's a burst of speed. Got her! Tanimura's painting. Look, I think you have the wrong idea. I'm not after Nadine. In fact, I'm trying to help her. Saki-chan says, are you really? Tanimura says, cross my heart. So what's up with the whole chase sequence as soon as you saw my badge? Are you hiding something? Saki-chan says, well, the thing is, I help people. Tanimura asks, help them how? Saki-chan says, I use my connections to help foreign women when the cops or criminals come for them. Tanimura says, so I take it you know Nadine then? Saki-chan asks, what would you do if you found her? Tanimura says, let me put it this way, she'll be dead if I don't find her first, and I'd like to get her home safe before that happens. Saki-chan has nothing to say. Then she goes on, all right, I know where she is. I'm actually the one looking after her. Tanimura says, great. Can you take me to see her then? Saki-chan says, well, you do seem like a decent guy. Alrighty boo, you just follow me. So we're in an office. Tanimura says, so you're Nadine? Nadine says, yes. Saki-chan says, he says he's here to help you, dear. Nadine asks, really? Tanimura says, yep. Had a heck of a time trying to find you, too. Nice work. Saki-chan says, she's not out of trouble just yet. Those creeps have her passport, and she can't get home without it. Tanimura says, you mean the human traffickers? Saki-chan says, I take it you've run into them already. Well, it's not only trafficking they do. They're in charge of managing the women they bring in too. Tanimura asks, managing? In what sense? Saki-chan says, they take the women's passports so they can't escape, and then give them just enough money to eke out a meagre living. They're essentially modern-day slave drivers. Tanimura says, oh, that's terrible. I hate bastards like that the most. You have any idea where they are? Saki-chan says, in a dilapidated food warehouse on the docks. Nadine says, I want to go home to the Philippines. Tanimura says, don't worry, I'll get your passport back. Nadine asks, you will? Tanimura says, yep, just leave it to me. Guess we'd better go find a cab, eh? Head down to the docks. Taxi driver says the minimum fare is 710 yen. Where would you like to go? We're going to the docks, if you please. Taxi driver says, very well, sir. Evening, gentlemen. Tanimura says to himself, a food warehouse on the docks, huh? Then those must be the guys who took Nadine's passport. Tanimura says, excuse me, I'm here for the passport you have been stealing from foreign women. Yakuza says, wait a minute, aren't you? Tanimura says, yeah, you bet I am. If you don't want to get hurt again, hand over the passports and make it quick. Yakuza says, you're one cocky son of a bitch, you know that? Alright, you're up. Come on out. Tanimura says, oh, what? What the hell do you feed this guy? Milk? Beef? Growth hormones? Yakuza says, now pulverize this punk. Well, he one's out, at least. You're nicked. Oh, you just... Oh, you're spreading everywhere, sir. Tanimura asks, how many times must I say it? Give me the passports. Yakuza says, fine. Just take the damn things. Yay. We're now in Bar Shellac. over in the Champion District. Saki-chan says, "Just to let you know, I got a call from Nadine this morning. She got home safe and sound." Tanimura says, "Good to hear. I hope this means fewer migrant workers like her will suffer through the same shitty experience." Saki-chan says, "I don't mean to be a sourpuss, but even though you busted up those jerks at the warehouse, this kind of thing will still go on." Tanimura asks, "Why do you say that?" Saki-chan says, "Because men like that are everywhere. They're only after one thing, the almighty yen, and they'll stop at nothing to get it, even if it means ruining countless lives." Tanimura asks, "But there has to be someone at the top pulling the strings." Saki-chan says, "You're saying there's a mastermind of the sex industry, a ringleader making millions off the lives of female migrant workers? Awful as it is, that doesn't sound too far-fetched." Tanimura says, "Right. Every power structure has its person in charge. You have any leads on where this ringleader might be?" Saki-chan says, "Not really, but I have heard those traffickers drop the name Bridge before. That could be a clue." Tanimura asks, "Wait, did you just say Bridge?" Saki-chan says, "Oh, you know him?" Tanimura says, "My dad left notes about someone named Bridge all throughout his notebook." "Oh, sorry, I should probably clarify what I mean by that." Saki-chan says, "No need. I know all about you. Detective Tanimura of the KPD." Tanimura asks, "How did you—" Saki-chan says, "I heard about you from Naomi-san, the fortune teller. Tell me, what specifically did your father's notebook say about Bridge?" Tanimura says, "Apparently Kay and my dad were investigating him." Saki-chan asks, "And who is Kay?" Tanimura says, "Another detective who worked with my dad. But damn, I never would have guessed that Bridge was some sort of sex trafficking kingpin. This could get ugly." Saki-chan asks, "Do you intend to find this Bridge and expose him?" Tanimura says, "Oh yeah, especially if this is the same guy my dad was after. Still, don't have any idea who Kay is though." Saki-chan asks, "Have you done your research?" Tanimura says, "I looked up all the detectives who ever worked in a case with my dad, but none of their names started with K. And there's no file on Bridge either. I think Kay and my dad were investigating Bridge off the record." Saki-chan says, "You know, the more you look into this, the more you're going to uncover about your past." Tanimura asks, "What are you trying to say?" Saki-chan says, "Taiki Tanimura was my senior detective." Tanimura asks, "You were a detective?" "Judging from what you just said, I'm sure you know Taiki wasn't my actual dad, right?" Saki-chan says, "Mm-hmm." Tanimura says, "Then you know who my real dad is?" Saki-chan says, "I can't comment on that. All I can say is, if you don't want to get hurt by what you find, I suggest you leave this case alone." Tanimura says, "I won't get hurt. That's impossible." Saki-chan asks, "Oh?" Tanimura says, "See, no matter who my real dad is, I'm still going to be the same guy. Let the past be the past, you know." Saki-chan has no words. Tanimura says, "By the way, why do they call this guy Bridge?" Saki-chan says, "Couldn't tell you, Han." Tanimura says, "I see. Well, I guess this is just one more case my dad left me to solve. No matter what, I'm going to find this bridge and bring his ass to justice. You gained 5,000 experience points. And we got a level up. Go us. Sorry. Altercation reported between a restaurant employee and attempted dine and dasher on North Pink Street. Well, we're on Senryu. So if we head south... KPD dispatch. Homicide reported in front of the Mark Bowl bowling alley near Theatre Square. We have positive ID on victim, Koichi Abe, a writer residing in Kamurocho. All officers in the area respond immediately. Tanimura thinks to himself, a murder. We've got a phone call. Tanimura says, Tanimura here. Officer asks, are you listening to your radio? Get your ass over here now. Tanimura says, I don't get it. Why are you calling me about this? The officer says, I didn't say for you to ask questions. Just get over here now. Tanimura says, yeah, be right there. Tanimura thinks to himself, the hell? Oh well, guess I'll head over to Mark Bowl. Okay, North Pink Street. Let's see if we can just resolve this on the way to Mark Bowl. The employee says, well, you need to pay somehow. The griping drunk says, shut up. I said I ain't got no money. Lost my goddamn wallet. Tanimura says, trying to skip out on the bill. You want me to cut you off right here? Do you want me to cuff you right here, sorry? Griping drunk says, who the hell? Get lost. Well, let's beat some sense back into you, sir. You're not doing drunken monkey on me, are you? Tanimura asks, so what'll it be, sir? Pay or take a trip to the station with me? Drunk that was griping says, I'll pay, by all means, let me pay. I'm happy to pay for your trouble, so could we just settle this quietly? We got 10,000 yen. Good for us. To Makbo. Sorry. Oh. That is a lot of police tape. Anyway, Tanimura says, hey, I'm here. Tanimura's colleague says, yes, if the stiff's a writer for the sex industry. Since you seem to be such an expert on the subject, I thought you might have some dirt on him. Tanimura asks, did you call me out here just to give me shit? Oh, and what was his name again? Tanimura's colleague says, make an effort to remember what you hear on the dispatch, Tanimura. His name is Koichi Yabe, 35 years old. Tanimura says, don't know who that is. Tanimura's colleague asks, you sure about that? Tanimura says, I'm telling you, I've never heard of him. Tanimura's colleague says, alright then, thanks, you can go now. Apparently we can go now. Well, while Tanimura is walking away, he thinks to himself, the murder victim was a sex industry writer. Something stinks about this. I've got another phone call. Tanimura says, Tanimura here. Saki-chan says, hey, it's me. Tanimura says, hey, Saki-chan. Saki-chan says, I heard Yabe was killed. Tanimura says, not bad for a former detective. You got your info quick. So, what do you know about this Yabe? Saki-chan says, I wanted to talk to you about that. Let's meet at Shellac. Tanimura says, okay, Shellac it is. Apparently we need to go to Shellac. So let's go get shellacked. That's to get into the Champion District. Of course it helps if you go into the right street, eh? Saki-chan says, oh, hi, hon. Turns out, Yabe-san was on the cusp of something dangerous. Tanimura says, what was it he investigated? Saki-chan says, not what, but who? A woman from Hong Kong. Tanimura says, I take it she's not just some random lady. Saki-chan says, right. Rumor has it she has ties to a certain crime syndicate, and she's in charge of illegal immigrant workers, all of them female. Tanimura says, so she's the crime boss then, and this syndicate's supposed to be... Saki-chan says, powerful underground intelligence networks spread throughout Asia. Apparently they recruit girls from poor families and make them buy fake passports and visas. Then they force them to work like slaves to work off the loans used to buy them. And when they're used up, they're history. Tanimura says, don't tell me. Bridge is the one running the show. Saki-chan says, that's my guess. Tanimura asks, any idea where this crime boss lady might be? Saki-chan says, I'm not entirely sure, but I heard the syndicate has an office near the arcade in Nakamichi Alley. I'm sure this goes without saying, but be careful, okay? Tanimura says, thanks, I'll try. Guess we'd better head towards the arcades. Tempted. Man says, okay, stop, we're kind of busy down here. Can you do me a favor and turn around? What's with that look? You saying you don't want to? Maybe you will once I beat you to a pulp. I mean, this is your choice. Probably not the best one, but, you know. Yeah, not the best for you, was it? Man says, we didn't know what we were getting into. Please, pass right on through. You can have this, please. Just don't hit us anymore. We got a pleading 5,000 yen. Attempted coercion reported at an adult entertainment shop on East Taihei Boulevard. Is that this? Persistent Barker says, hey, it's all good. Our place is the cheapest and we've got the cutest babes. Forceful Barker says, alright, done deal, let's head on over. Man that can't decline says, wait, I said I'm not interested. Tanimura says, cut it out already. It's people like you that force us to make harsher and harsher laws. Persistent Barker says, huh? What the hell? Get out of my way! Got him, yes! The persistent Parker says, yikes! And they bugger off. Tanimura says, those guys sure know how to run away. Oh, are you alright? The man that can't decline says, oh, I'm just fine. How much do I owe you for this? I really have no idea. Tanimura says, how much? Oh, just whatever you feel is right. How about 40 million yen? The man who can't decline says, how about this? Got 5,000 yen. Yeah, it'll do. Yeah, we need to head for the arcade. Just save. There we go. Now we just need to find Sega Land. There we go. Now, only one black bloke playing Virtua Fighter 5. Oh no. No idea what that is. Anyway. The employee says, welcome to Club Sega. What can I do for you today, sir? Tanimura says, yeah, never mind. No, there was do something there. We got Taihei Boulevard Locker Key G1. And something else. Taihei Boulevard Locker Key A1. Okay. Tanimura thinks to himself, behind the arcade. Rich's Syndicate should have an office around there. Should I go in? We're going in. Tanimura says, okay, I'm going in. Nothing like clarity of purpose. We've gone in, and a man in a business suit says, oh, and who might you be? Tanimura says, doesn't matter. I'm looking for the boss, some lady from Hong Kong. The man in the business suit says, don't know who you're talking about. Tanimura says, don't play stupid with me. Just bring her here and there won't be any trouble. The man in the business suit says, oh, forgive me. Where are my manners? Hey, fellas, come help me escort our guest. Our friend here is requesting a one-way trip to the afterlife. Shall we oblige? Tanimura says, I get that your boss is a tough nut to crack, but you really don't have to make things so difficult. The man in the business suit says, give him hell, boys. Ooh, just got it in time. You're nicked. I'd say you're nicked as well, but you're dead, so not much point in nicking you. So Tanimura says, so a sex industry writer named Koichi Yabe was investigating a madam from Hong Kong and it got him killed. The man in the business suit says, what, Yabe's dead? Tanimura asks, so you knew him? The man in the business suit says, I did. Tanimura says, tell me where this boss of yours is. The man in the business suit says, she went back to Hong Kong this morning. Tanimura says, I see. So she had to skip town to keep a lid on Yabe's murder. The man in the business suit says, oh, that shoulder. Oh. Look, I know it's a product of a different time, but that's kind of egregious. Perhaps you could have done a bit more to smooth that out. Anyway, the man in the business suit says, let's just say she learned too much about the organization for her own good. Tanimura asks, are you talking about the organization that Bridge runs? The man in the business suit asks. Bridge. Tanimura asks. What, you never heard the name? The man in the business suit says, we're not important enough to know what's going on up top. All I know is that the boss leaked something to Yabe. Tanimura says, and now that Yabe's dead, I guess we'll never know what that was.
Yeah.
The man in the business suit says, don't be so sure about that. Yabe apparently hid whatever he compiled somewhere. Tanimura says, really? Where? The man in the business suit says, dunno. The organization's in a frenzy trying to find out. Tanimura says, interesting. Oh, that's just worse from that angle. Look, we've your entire shoulder blade has been dislocated, sir. We need to get you into surgery immediately. The man in the business suit asks, are you going to look for it too? Tanimura says, you bet. I imagine it's some pretty valuable info. The man in the business suit says, you ought to stay out of it, or you'll end up just like Yabe. Tanimura says, don't you worry about me. After giving me all these details, you should be watching your own back. No, you should be screaming in pain and rushing for the nearest hospitals. Tanimura's outside now and he's thinking to himself, so Yabe hid some info, huh? And without any leads, I might as well be running in circles. There is that greedy old fortune teller. Guess I gotta rely on her again. I don't know if she'll like us calling her greedy and old. Man says, you there, did you just give me the stink eye? Know what happens when you do that in this part of town? I'd be more than happy to demonstrate. I'm sure you would. Did your mother never tell you it was not nice to play with knives? I swear I am running a single-handed campaign on knife safety. The man asks, what happened? You're way too strong. I'm sorry, I obviously didn't know what I was getting into. I hope you'll accept this and forgive me. We got a rewarding toughness Z. Yay. Oh, hello Japanese Ronald McDonald. What do you have for me? Got item pack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we'll just stop there. Alright, Gypsy Rose, what have you got this time? Naomi says, I knew you would return. Tanimura says, I'm trying to find the evidence Yabe, that sex industry writer, left behind. Naomi says, that's no ordinary information you seek. It is going to cost you. Tanimura asks, how much? Naomi says, 50,000 yen, and not a yen less. Tanimura says, greedy, aren't we? I will deal with you like I deal with your Jimbo. I will pay you what you demand, minus 1 coin. Tanimura says, man, I hope she gets this right. Naomi says, huh, Naomi will not disappoint. Yes, yes. I see a place. A bar frequented by the one they call Yabe. Tanimura asks, are you telling me you actually see that in your wall of glass there? Naomi says, silence. Do you doubt the great and powerful Naomi? Tanimura says, no, it's not that. It's just kind of weird. Anyway, what's the bar's name? Naomi says, Q's Bar. Tanimura says, the pool bar in the underground mall. Naomi says, correct. Tanimura says, thanks. I'll be back if this leads a good one. We go spelunking, we do. Where are you off to in a hurry, sir? You're just doing your morning calisthenics. Okay, that is fine. You keep that up, sir. You'll live to 100. I mean... oh well. Hello dear. Bartender says welcome. Tanimura says, hey, you wouldn't happen to know a writer named Yabe, would you? Writes about the sex industry. The bartender says, oh, him. He was here 2 days ago. Tanimura says, I see. He's dead now. Bartender says, no. It's because he got involved with that woman. Tanimura says, you're not talking about the woman from Honkers, are you? The bartender asks, you know her? Tanimura says, I know she's part of a crime ring. The bartender says, yes. Apparently she gave Yabe-san some rather vital information, to put it lightly. Tanimura says, that's what I don't get. She must have known that would put her life in danger. The bartender says, a lady in the throes of love tends to throw caution to the wind. Tanimura says, wait, she and Yabe were in love? The bartender says, it's more like Yabe was a ladies' man. Tanimura says, ah, I get it. He must have seduced the information out of her. The bartender says, and then he paid the price. Tanimura says, well, he's supposed to have hidden this information somewhere. Any idea where that might be? The bartender asks, what do you intend to do with it? Tanimura says, I'll use it to crush the syndicate once and for all. The bartender asks, can I trust you? Tanimura says, you can. I'll do whatever it takes to prove it. The bartender says, okay then. He said it was in a locker in the underground mall. Tanimura says, thank you. The bartender says, Yabe-san gave his life for that information. Don't let it go to waste. Many Bothans died to bring us this information. Anyway, Tanimura says, you weren't in love with him too, were you? Bartender says, he was just a customer to me, that's all. Tanimura says, right. Well, see you. So, hang on. No. There was a key over there. Tanimura says, there's something here. You got Kamurocho Underground Locker Key D4. Yeah, would that be Yabe's locker key, perhaps? I also... This whole American concept of 9-ball pool. I prefer our 15-ball pool. 9-ball just seems lazy. Oh, hello. Maybe I didn't need a key after all. Tanimura says to himself, damn, these bastards were one step ahead of me. Then he says, as he walks up to them, I'll be taking that bag off your hands. Tough guy says, ah, so you know what this is? Glad you showed up then. Now we can get rid of you. Next. Well, that was refreshingly quick. By my standards, in the Yakuza series at least. So Tanimura kneels down and thinks to himself, so this is what Yabe gave his life for. A pile of papers. There's something else in here. A ring and letter. It says, to Mitsuko. That's the bartender. I should take these to her. We're obviously back inside the pub. Tanimura says, he was planning on celebrating your birthday with you. Mitsuko says, I begged him not to get involved with that horrible woman. Tanimura says, I guess he was going to use the info to write an expose on the syndicate. Mitsuko asks, what exactly did he find out? Tanimura replies, details of the syndicate's activities, recruiting Asian women, counterfeiting passports, arranging fake marriages with Japanese men, operating brothels. Mitsuko asks, is that enough to take down the syndicate for good? Tanimura replies, I'm not 100% sure this would qualify as conclusive evidence, but it could play a big role in exposing their operations, which could eventually lead to bringing them down. Mitsuko says, good. Tanimura-san, would you take this for me? We got an Eye of the Dragon. Yabe always wore it as a sort of lucky charm. It hurts too much to keep it now. Tanimura says, okay, then I'll hold on to it for you. And I promise to use this information to get Bridge. Yabe-san won't have died in vain. Mitsuko says, thank you. We gained 5,000 experience points. Yay! Evening, Constable. Standoff reported. Never mind. Man says, hey, I know it's sudden, but can you give me some allowance? Like 10,000 yen? We've been low on some fun money, so I'm thinking we'll just get some by force. Probably wouldn't have chosen a pale shirt today, sir. It's going to stain rather woefully. Look at that. You'll never get that stain out of that shirt. Anyway, the man says, I'm sorry, please take this. I promise I'll stop going out for a while. We got a misshapen toughness ZZ. Standoff reported in building in Pink Alley. Suspect is armed and dangerous. No, that's Nakamichi Alley. This is Pink Alley. Oh well. Yeah, I think I'm going to call an end to this episode here, because we've spent most of it in pursuit of Dad's secret case, and continue with the story next time. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the next episode.